How you doing, Internet? I'm Venus, and today I'd like to talk to you about the thing that made Five Nights at Freddy's successful. At least, I think the one thing that made it the most successful, and that's the story. Because as far as the gameplay goes, it tends to be pretty simple, and the jump scares, well, the more you're exposed to them, the less effective they are. Although, to be honest, I would say that the most effective ones come from FNAF 4 and FNAF 2's Withered set, as well as most likely FNAF 6, based mostly on the appearance of the animatronics. But today, I'd like to bring to you a review of the novels, because that's where Scott attempted to bring his stories together in order to make them more cohesive. As a result, though, of the differences between what happens in the games and the books, he has decided to make them alternatively canonical, which means that both stories are true, but to their own worlds. Now, as far as the novel series goes, there are 3 of them. The Silver Eyes, the Twisted Ones, and a third to come. They're by Scott Cawthon together with Kira Breed Risley. I don't know if that's how her name is pronounced, but these two have worked together in order to create these stories. And then we have the Freddy Files, the official guide to the games, as well as these 2 books that have come out before, and until recently it was pretty comprehensive if there are some errors in it. First, start off with the Silver Eyes, because that's where Scott started off, and this is the story of Charlie, no last name given, and in the case with Henry, coming back to a reunion with some of her friends for a memorial service in honor of all of the Freddy Fazbear victims, or at least the children, including her old friend Michael, who was one of the victims also associated with it. In their journey back to Hurricane, Utah, she gets reintroduced to her friends, who pretty much on a dare go back to the site of Freddy Fazbear's, which itself is an abandoned mall which was never completely constructed, and they explore the site, find out that it's derelict but things haven't been taken apart, and then everything starts to go down. It's not exactly like the games, and it shouldn't be, because why get the exact same experience twice? So the book definitely has its own flavor, and it does have the staple characters in them, at least the animatronics. Freddy, Bunny, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy does make an appearance, as does a security guard named Dave, and an old spring Bunny suit. Now, what's interesting about the Silver Eyes is that it provides a little bit more background as to some of the characters, particularly Charlie, her father Henry, who was the inventor of the animatronics, and his partner William Afton, who was named for the first time in the Silver Eyes. Charlie notices some things because she has some insights which were given to her by her father as he was working on all the different animatronics, including the twitchy, silver-eyed Foxy, which is where the title comes from. So despite Freddy being on the cover of that one, I believe, here you go, he's on the back, the Silver Eyes actually refers to Foxy, and it's a bunny on the cover of the Twisted Ones. Now, the Silver Eyes and the Twisted Ones aren't the best written things out there, but because of their insights, they still might be valuable for fans of Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't think that anyone who isn't a fan would enjoy reading them. And then again, I don't know whether or not someone who's not a fan would have any reason to read it in the first place. It may not be the case that they will, although if they want a few scares, maybe they might. As for the Twisted Ones, this continues the story about 1 year after the events of the Silver Eyes, and involves only some of Charlie's friends. She's gone on to a university course that includes robotics, somewhat following in her father's footsteps, to try to understand certain aspects of what happened, how it could happen, and that kind of thing. But all throughout this book, she's bothered by one question. Why was her twin brother Sammy chosen as a victim way back in the Fredbear's Diners days, which is also something that was touched on in the Silver Eyes. And so she has this quest of finding that out, whereas she's being hunted by the twisted animatronics. Versions of Freddy, Foxy, Chica, and Bonnie that look very strange and nightmarish, as well as one that has appeared for the first time in this novel, one that no one out of any of Charlie's friends actually recognize. And what they do is they travel by night, and then when the sun is about to rise, they bury themselves either in the backyard of their intended victim or in a secluded space so that they will not be found. And then they attack their intended victim and trap them inside them, where they actually have some spring locks inside them. And usually the victim ends up dying because they don't understand the situation and they panic. And the twisted animatronics are actually built larger, much larger than the spring lock suits or even the Funtime animatronics. They're built to house adults rather than children, which is also an interesting little twist on things, because previously all of the victims were children, but the twisted animatronics are all hunting Charlie, and she has to find a way to defend herself. Another interesting thing that happens in the Twisted Ones is that part of it happens in an underground facility with tunnels that lead up to certain houses, including Charlie's, which, of course, some may say, links it with Sister Location, which had a map in the breaker room that had tunnels connected to houses that looked very much like maps from FNAF 4. So there's a little bit of connection there. And of course, the animatronics would be somewhat headless without someone to lead them. And so there is a villain again in this book. But again, there are some things that are unbelievable on the scale of why would you go back to a place where you know you would be in danger kind of thing, but that was also in very much in the games from the very start. But the Twisted Ones definitely had some interesting twist to it, and it has some questions which hopefully will be answered. The Freddy Files, while it may be an official guide, is not by Scott Cawthon. There's no hint of who collected all of the data. On the verso it just says by Scott Cawthon. There's really no hint, which is a shame because the artist who did a lot of the illustrations in here, I think did a very good job. So I think the artist and the person who did all the research deserves a lot of praise for the art. So this guide is divided into the different games, and it has different headings and hints about the lore, as well as about the gameplay, and try to help players determine what they should do as they're playing. Although a lot of this is also stuff which you can observe and learn as you're playing, or as you're watching YouTube videos of people playing these games. So it goes through FNAF 1, 2, 3, 4, and it does have some glitches and story secrets, how to get rare screens, as well as lore and theories, a lot of them having to do with the missing children clips, because FNAF 1 at least didn't have a lot of the lore that the later ones have through their Atari style 8-bit games. And there's yet another of the illustrations, this one for FNAF 2 with the puppet. We learned a little bit about in the most recent game. Interestingly, it calls these death videos end of night hallucinations, and there we have as well the paycheck. There's another very nice illustration, this time of the very intimidating and murderous Springtrap. And we get to FNAF 4, and then we get into Sister Location. They call this place Circus Baby's Pizza World, even though it's an underground maintenance facility, and there wouldn't be anyone for the animatronics to perform to down there. Here is the Fun with Plush Trap hallway, walkway between Freddy's and the house. Here is the bedroom. One thing that the Twisted Ones talks about a lot are these little electronic discs that make people hallucinate to what they expect to see. And one of the tasks during Sister Location is to remove a familiar seeming disc from the chests of Funtime Freddy and Bon Bon. And in the game it calls it the power core. But that's a suspicious location for something that's supposed to power an animatronic, even though they do seem to shut down. One theory that was talked about, at least by MatPat, was that these discs are the same ones as in the Twisted Ones. And then we get these blueprints of the Funtime animatronics, or at least Baby and I think that's Freddy. Yeah. So that's where we get the idea that he has a storage tank and he's designed to carry children, kidnapping them perhaps for torture or whatever, plus the luring devices. Scott has confirmed on his Reddit, I believe, that William Afton, Purple Man, or Purple Guy, is Springtrap, and Ennard was using Michael Afton. And then he actually goes into the novels a bit as well. Have a nice little summary here for the Silver Eyes, one for the Twisted Ones. Although the nicer part is that you now also have an illustration for Charlie. So this is what she looked like according to the novel. Now, there's also a description somewhere that Baby was based on Charlie when Henry built her. This Charlie has brown hair, which lines up with something else that happened in the most recent game. So there's Charlie and John. And Clay Burke, the police officer, also plays a major role. Some creepy looking older animatronics from when Charlie was younger. Some very nice illustrations of the Twisted animatronics. So these are what they looked like when people were being affected by the discs, which caused the hallucination, including Wolf, as I call him because there's no other version of Wolf, and here he's called Twisted Wolf. But I really do like the detail and level of these illustrations, so I wanted to highlight them. I have some unanswered questions from before. We don't know about Charlie's mom, she's not mentioned after. Why the killer took Sammy, that's a question from the Twisted One. Is Charlie's childhood home connected to another location? According to the Twisted Ones, it showed that it was. And then what's next for FNAF? Well, I think we've found out by now. And just to highlight what that is, right there we have a picture of Scrap Baby. And we know that's her because she has a claw and a crown, and that's pretty much the way she appears in FNAF 6. So it's nice having some insights in the pictures, but there are also some inaccuracies, especially as concerns Michael Afton, as well as the location of Sister Location, although when this was compiled, those were still some fresh details that people were still arguing between. And does not include FNAF World. That's somewhat alternate canon, I guess. And of course, given the time that it was written, FNAF 6 details are not included in it. But this is still a pretty comprehensive guide if you want to have all those things, all those details, even though not every detail is included in it. Almost everything is. So if you want to have that guide, here it is, the Freddy Files. This one actually came from the Markham Public Libraries. They got it to me first, so you can find it there. You can also find it at Vaughan Public Libraries. And this one did come from Vaughan Public Libraries, and you can find it there if you'd like it. And I originally read The Silver Eyes courtesy of Richmond Hill Public Libraries. So 3 different systems that I went to that supplied the FNAF books to me, although you should be able to find all 3 that are currently out at your local library, no problem. And if you don't find them, you can indeed suggest or recommend that they buy them for you. And given how popular the franchise is, chances are the librarians will forward the request and you may be first in line. There's are some things, some errors in the novels that could be fixed. Some continuity errors, some things where things don't quite mesh, as well as some logical errors. Although those were always kind of part of the series, especially considering Fazbear Entertainment's business practices. You can see some of in FNAF 6, and get knows how much of a satire it really is. Anyway, that about does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you can leave a like, comment below what you thought, subscribe to show your support for my channel, and visit my Patreon. So, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye!